Hello, this is simply your best dial 103.5 FM. Good morning. Welcome to the Starr Breakfast News. And coming up this morning, President Mahama expected to deliver his first State of the Nation address after his victory in the December polls.
Tomorrow we'll get a clearer picture of the state of our country's economy and what needs to be done. So yes, I'm sure Ghanaians are also geared up to hear the message of reset. But it's also going to be a budget for hope and renewal of our spirit and our aspirations.
Also coming up, Institute for Fiscal Studies urges Mahama-led government to be cautious in its planned tax cuts. Still in this edition, civil society organization Send Ghana urges government to allocate domestic funds to tackle public health emergencies.
Efijao is following, and so you have K2 Assembly has been allocating funds annually for emergency preparedness, in case it should happen, and that is what we are calling for.
We've got details of these stories coming up shortly, but first, let's remind you of our affiliate stations across the country.
Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Zeps 95.9 FM in Zebila, Nissim 100.1 FM in Lamshao, My Star Radio in the USA, also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM. Starr News. Informed, in-depth, in touch.
Many thanks to you for choosing Starr News. I am El-Nurein. Abass begins the bulletin this morning. President John Dramani Mahama is expected to deliver his first State of the Nation address in Parliament today. The State of the Nation address is a constitutional obligation and a yearly tradition where the President reports on the status of the country, unveils government's agenda for the coming year, and proposes to Parliament certain legislative measures. Speaking to Starr News ahead of today's presentation, Deputy Presidential Spokesperson Shamima Muslim expressed optimism that the speech will present hope for Ghanaians and the country at large.
Tomorrow we'll get a clearer picture of the state of our country's economy and what needs to be done. So yes, I'm sure Ghanaians are also geared up to hear the message of reset. But it's also going to be a budget for hope and renewal of our spirit and our aspirations, and a clear commitment of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's leadership to really reset this country and ensure we bring about the necessary developments that will inure to the benefit of the mass of our citizens. Even the government is bearing with itself, and I think that we are all in agreement. And again, I'm very happy you referenced the conversation with the Labour last week, and the fact that Labour itself understands deeply the state of our economy and is also willing to make the necessary sacrifices. Labour did not come to that decision blindfolded. Labour would also have done the necessary investigations, and they would also have assessed the commitment of His Excellency John Mahama to the cause of sacrifice.
You heard Deputy Presidential Spokesperson Shamima Muslim. Well, we spoke to a few Ghanaians who expressed eagerness to listen to the President later today.
Now it's going to curtail our economic crisis.
Also tell us the state of doom so, because people would want to use it against you, and we know it's not your fault. This time, Ghanaians are going to defend you because we voted massively for you and we are expecting fireworks. So please address doom so. What state are we in right now? Is it just fixing the power sector? That's why we are getting flashes of our lights going off on for a couple of hours during the day. Please address that for us. So
well, away from that, the Institute for Fiscal Studies has urged the Mahama-led government to be cautious in its planned tax cuts, as it warns relief to Ghanaians may be short-lived if alternative measures are not adopted. Finance Minister Dr. Kesela Tuforsin is expected to, on 11th March, present to Parliament on behalf of President John Dramani Mahama government's first budget. But speaking on what should be the priorities of the new government as it confronts the ongoing economic difficulties, resident economist at the IFS, Leslie Mensah, says the current government risks facing the same tax cycle of the previous NPP administration if the cuts are not critically thought through.
Your tax cut pledge, what do you have to offset the impact of the tax cut? Or what do you have to lower the expenditure down as this go down? So this is a framework within which, when we eventually see the budget and the tax cut proposals, we're going to assess what they want to do and whether it will lead to sustainable fiscal policy or there's an alternative to fill that gap. In fact, under the previous administration, their first budget was a tax cutting budget, if you remember, 2017, no doubt. Every single budget after that was a tax raising budget. So 18 months after the first budget, in mid-2018, they began to raise taxes, and they continued to raise taxes until, they left office. So if the new administration doesn't think carefully about the total fiscal policy stance, a similar thing could happen. You could make people happy in the first year, and then from the second year onwards, you make yourself more and more unpopular with tax rises.
You had resident economist at the IFS, Leslie Mensah. This is still the Starr Breakfast News. Now, a civil society organization, Send Ghana, has called on the government to allocate a domestic fund dedicated to tackling public health emergencies. According to Send Ghana, having a dedicated domestic fund readily available would facilitate more pragmatic and swift containment of health emergencies, particularly as foreign donor partners begin to withdraw their support in Africa and globally. Here is the country director of Send Ghana, Harriet Nyama Ajman, speaking to Starr News.
If people use the ambulance, they don't have all the money to pay. They take money from there to augment. Others have sensitized their communities. The communities are willing to pay, but they want good systems and structures in place. And that is what Lower Manakrobo is doing. Brim is doing same. Efijao is following. And so you have K2 Assembly has been allocating funds annually for emergency preparedness.
In case it should happen, and that is what we are calling for. Much as the districts are doing it, we also want the national to establish a fund, and so we are taking it from both angles, bottom up and top down, so that we are secured. In the recent times, we do not have donors wanting to give us as much as they used to give, or give us at all. We know what is happening now, and so we should begin to look within. That is the message of our advocacy for since 2021, as asking our government to use domestic resources to fund public health emergencies, and that we should look for the money and set some aside.
You had country director of Send Ghana, Harriet Nyama Ajman. Now, dealers in electronic waste at Old Fadama and Agbebuloshi continue to work under hazardous conditions, exposed to toxic materials while struggling to make ends meet. For years, poor economic conditions have forced them into unsafe e-waste disposal practices, including the harmful burning of discarded electronics. But the Minister of Environment, Science and Technology, Murtala Mohammed, together with stakeholders like EPA, is stepping in with a plan to end these unsafe practices. With new collection points and partnerships with certified recycling companies, the ministry aims to protect both the environment and the livelihoods of the scrap dealers.
Here at the Old Fadama scrap market, hundreds of these youth make a living out of the trade in electronic waste, but the health implications are dire. Scrap dealers like Rashid Zakari, who have been in this business for close to a decade, are often working in hazardous conditions, usually at the mercy of the weather and toxic materials in an attempt to recover valuable materials from discarded electronics.
One day sickness go catch you, the hospital people, they tell you say they smoke, but you no smoke because they burn. If they burn, they tell you say they smoke, but you know they smoke.
But for years, scrap dealers have resorted to unsafe disposal methods due to the low price tags from approved buyers. This is because they are unable to make enough money to adopt safer disposal methods.
We'll bring you the full report in subsequent bulletins. Now, before we go, a raging fire at the Physical Development and Municipal Service Directorate near the Bush Canteen of the University of Ghana on Wednesday evening destroyed properties running into thousands of cities. According to sources, the fire was as a result of a gas explosion. However, there were no lives lost. Now, exclusive videos and audio from the scene show that the explosion triggered a rapid spread of flames, sending thick plumes of smoke into the sky. Students and vendors in the area rushed to safety as the fire raged through the popular eatery. Now, we spoke to Alex Kenate, who is with the Communication Affairs of the Ghana National Fire Service.
Someone came to inform them about the fire over there, so they had to be quick and proactive to try and contain the fire. Upon arriving, they realized the fire was raging and spreading, so they had to call for reinforcement. So we had to get our teams from Madina, Abilinki, and our national headquarters to augment them. So we had 4 fire tenders, and within an hour we were able to put the fire under control and quench it. It looks like it's the estate block, and behind it is like a workshop where fridges and then air conditioners and other deep freezers are repaired. So we suspect that might be the seat of fire. That's where the fire had started.
You heard Alex Kenate. He is with the Communication Affairs of the Ghana National Fire Service. When you log on to starfm.com.gh, you'll find more news updates there. I am El-Nurein Abass. Many thanks to you for tuning in. Next, we have Nana Ama Ajiman with Sports Chat. Please don't go away.